Hey everyone, and welcome to Friday Live with me, Ashley Hay from Powtex Australia. I'm so looking forward to spending the day with you today, well, an hour this morning or half an hour, to look at part 2 of creating a rusty journal. So I hope you've got your gear organised. I know some of you like to paint and play along. And last week, of course, we looked at how to create amazing textures on our rusty journal, and this week we'll be looking at colouring it up with pigments and also how to create beautiful layers and get really a professional finish to your artwork. So welcome, and if you're here, please let me know, and also let me know where you're from if it's your first time here. So just pop in and say hello and good morning, and maybe let us know as well if you've done anything from last week with the rusty journal. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you all. So let's get started, and I will go down to the art table and we'll get going. So okay, hang on. Oh, my mouse isn't. Hey Robin, lovely to see you. And Nicole, I think that's you as well, so welcome. And let's go down to the art table. So you can see here what I've got is the more finished journal. It's not very lit up today for some reason, but never mind. You can actually see some of those colours, but I'm hoping that you get a real sense of how to create them today. So of course, what we looked at last week was we actually did some of the underlayers. So we looked at creating some layers with some stenciling and also the corrugated cardboard to get these amazing sort of rusty effects. And I said last week that sometimes what I do is I actually paint the bronze Powtex back over the top of the stenciling once I have done that first layer, so that it is going to be more subtle in the background of the artwork. And of course, by the time we layer it up with our stencils as well, not with our stencils, with our chippy shapes, you know, it may be that you don't see a lot of this. So that is just something that evolves each time you do it. And so what you really want to do is not worry too much about, you know, if you are covering a layer, and just treat it as experience for the next time that you actually create your journal. So with any artworks, it is all about the layers. So what we've used here, of course, is we have used the bronze Powtex in the underlayer so that which is just perfect for your rust effects artwork, because it creates a beautiful earthy colour to actually then put your base colours onto, which of course is what I'm going to show you today. So this is what we've used for starters, is the Powertex Universal Medium. It comes in a range of colours, and so this one is actually the bronze, which, like you see, it goes like a beautiful chocolate colour that then you can get the most amazing realistic bronze effect with when you add your pigments, and you can get the most amazing rust effects with when we actually layer our pigment colours on top of here as well. So what I'm going to show you is how to actually use colour tricks and power colour pigments to add your rust effects to your artwork, and then how it's best to create the layers. So we'll be doing a third session next week where we're putting all the elements together and really finishing it off. But I really want to show you the layers today, so let's get going. So what we need, of course, is we need some pigment colours. Now, there is a, if you like the kit and you like the rusty journal and some of the bits and pieces that you get, of course, which I showed you last week, and I'll be showing you the chippy shapes that are included with that again this week. There is a rusty journal kit available from Powtex Australia if you're in Australia, and there's also a rust colour kit. Now, I'll show you some of the colours that I use for the rust effects. So what we've got is we've got the Power colours, which essentially are matte colours. So we're going to use the turquoise and in the Power colours, and we're going to use the titanium white, and we're also going to use the light blue. So all of these three colours in combination actually work really, really well. Now, the Rust Effects kit doesn't actually include the light blue Power colour, because you can actually do the Rust Effects beautifully just with the turquoise and the titanium white. And then, of course, we need our rusty orangey colours where we're going to use our mocha in the Power colour range and our red ochre in the Power colour range. So there's a whole lot of matte pigments in the Powtex range, which are called Power colours, and then you've also got the metallic pigments that are, of course, metallic, and we're going to finish off with the Colourtrix Rich Gold for our artwork. So they're the colours that we're going to be using, and in your kits you've actually got Easy Varnish, but what I'm going to use today is I'm just going to use Easy Coat Glossy. So you can actually use Easy Coat Glossy or Easy Coat Matte instead of Easy Varnish if you wish. The Easy Varnish is beautiful. It has a liquid wax in it and it is just absolutely gorgeous to use. Essentially what we're using this medium for is to bind the pigments so that it creates a more painterly way of applying it, which I'm going to show you right now. So, of course, if you didn't add a binder, the pigments could simply rub off, and so using Easy Coat Glossy or Easy Varnish is going to give you that binder that you need for your pigments to stay on your artwork. Okay, so I have a piece of just aluminium foil that I've got here, and I'm just going to pop out some turquoise. This is a great tool. I've got a little sculpture kit available from Powtex Australia. It's only $6.95 and it includes a couple of tools and also a stirring spatula, and that is just, it's gold. Makes life so easy. So I'm going to put out a bit of this, and then I'll put out a bit of the titanium white as well. Now, usually, I've just done myself in, because usually I put the white right away from the turquoise, so I will move it. So I usually put it on the opposite end of the palette. And the reason being is because you don't want too much white to actually get into the turquoise. I'll put it back on this palette so that I can lift it up for you to see. So you can see both of those colours are actually separated there, and then we're going to pop down just a little bit of Easy Coat Glossy onto here. Now, if you missed last week, essentially part one will show you how to create these textural layers. I'll also show you the other one that I did as well, so you can see the stenciling on there and you can see the corrugated cardboard. So essentially that is going from that to that. And the really nice thing is with the Powtex is that the cardboard actually becomes quite hard. So this is at distressed. So that's a very thin layer of card, and you can see how lovely and crispy it is. Once it starts to dry as well, you can actually bend it a little bit more and it will stay exactly where you want it to. You'll find that when it's wet, it just basically wants to do its own thing. So do let it dry off a little bit and you'll find it much easier to manipulate and play with. So this one I went a bit oops, a bit crazier on. And so this one has your stencil layer underneath, and then I've put layers of corrugated cardboard, and I've also put some of this stuff on, which is essentially a packing paper. So the Powtex works really, really well with any papers and cardboards because it is going to harden those beautiful textures, and the more absorbent the textures are that you're playing with, the more lovely it is to actually get the effects. So if you find this paper, usually it's wrapping fruit or wine bottles, it is just absolutely divine to use, and so that is what I've actually got on here, and you can see that it just makes the most glorious texture, and then is going to be really beautiful to highlight. So that's the elements we're playing with. And then, of course, we've got our Cog Shapes, which I'll just pull some of those over so you can have a look. So we're going to then be adding some Cog Shapes on the top of our piece as well. So we'll be adding some chippy shapes onto there, but we're going to put those aside for now because we're treating this in a layered approach. So we want to colour in underneath first, and then we're going to actually add the elements on after we have coloured the underneath section. All right, so I'm just, if you have any questions, make sure you pop them in the chat, and I will have a look at those. So I'll just bring that up now and see. So everyone's just said good morning, so welcome everyone. If you're just popping in for the first time, it's lovely, and I will get started on this colouring, and be sure to ask your questions. If I don't answer them live, I will be answering them afterwards in the chat, so let's get going. Alrighty. So what we're going to do is take a little bit of the medium onto our brush, just so that we've got a damp brush. So you don't want too much, and then we're going to pop it into here and make it into a little bit of a pasty liquid, and we're going to take the tiniest bit of the white and put it in here. Now I will show you why. I should have showed you why first probably, but let's take a look at how that colour looks. And what is really good to do is to take off a little bit of the excess and then start in an area where it's not going to matter if you get a little bit heavy-handed. So on these cardboard layers, I actually want a little bit of turquoise in the grooves of the corrugated iron, if you like. So you can see what I've done there. I've really got into those grooves. And then when I've got very little on my brush, that's when I can actually swish across the background section and take a layer of that bluey turquoise in there. So the less titanium white you put in, obviously the darker it's going to be. I'll show you how dark it is on its own, and you'll see why it's necessary to put a little bit of the titanium white in there. So you can hardly see the colour coming through. So it's really nice, like I say, to just get a little bit of that titanium white. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want it to be super, super, super white. So that's a lovely colour now. Hope you can see that colour. It's just gorgeous. Now, like I say, once I've got less on my brush, which I have now, that's when I can go into that background section and really just swish across some of those textures. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to cover all the bronze. I want some of that dark colour to still be coming through from underneath. So I'm literally swishing onto some of those textures. Now, I'm going to show you what you don't want to do, which is you don't want to get a heap of white on your brush and have it very, very light turquoise and then go like this. Okay, see how that just is standing out? It's really awful. And you can see that it's just really, really way too light. So you want like a mid-tone colour. So if you think in terms of grey and white and black, you want a tone that is sort of halfway between the two. Now, if you do something like this, you can just fix it by repainting it with a little bit of bronze Powtex, letting it dry and then going back to your colour mixing. So let's just get rid of some of that white. Okay. The other thing you don't want is, see how that's really wet? So I hadn't quite dried my brush off well enough. So I do want to make sure that my brush doesn't have any water on it, and I'm not using too much of that binder. So it's a really dry brush technique that you want to use. And then we can just swish our colour into there. So I'll keep going with that a little bit. So the really nice thing with rust is that you do have beautiful colours peeking through from, you know, underneath. Now you can see what's happening here. I've actually got some white still on my brush, and so it's actually going quite light. Use the heavy bits on the corrugated papers and then go into your background once you've got less on your brush. So I'm going to get a little bit of Powtex and I'm going to camouflage that bit that I don't like because it's now annoying me. The bit that I showed you what not to do. And we'll put a little bit more turquoise out. Most of the time you should spend mixing the colour, not on your actual artwork. So, you know, take the time to mix your colours properly and then dry brush it onto your work where you want it. And what you want to do is you want it to take it to the point where it looks finished with the blues. And of course I'm using the power colours, the matte pigments at the moment. So this is the turquoise and the titanium white. And you just keep going until you're happy with those background colours. Now what you don't want is you don't want too many brush marks. Like I say, I'll get a little bit of bronze Powtex and fix that up where I did that. Now you can see I'm using a very fuzzy brush. These are actually I actually like them once they get to the point where they're a little bit damaged. And I'm just going to take some of that, just see if I can blend it even though it's still wet. Just camouflage it into the background there. Okay, that's better. That's not standing out so much now. All right, so now I've got like a turquoise blue layer on the work. Just see if I can turn this light up a bit for you. Okay, I think that's better. So you can actually see that beautiful turquoise blue, and it's actually all over the artwork, but you've still got elements of the bronze coming through. So it hasn't absolutely covered everywhere. And so you want to use that dry brush effect where you're really getting in there and swishing around. Okay, to take another tone of the light blue onto your piece, this just gives you a warmer tone. So it's actually, the light blue is a warmer blue, and it's a very subtle difference that you're going to see. So just take a little bit of that, and then we can actually swish some of that on. So it just gives you another tone to your blues and a little bit more depth and interest in your artwork than just having the one colour blue. So it's really nice to add in if you haven't got that light blue. It is really quite a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous colour. And then we can swish some in the background there as well. All right. So now we've got our blue layers, and we want to actually next take our rusty colours onto here. So I can put as much of that layer of blue in there as I like. And that is just an aesthetic decision that you guys can make. Now, if you love rust effects and you want the full rusty experience with me, I have done a fantastic online course for a rusty project. It is broken up into lots of different segments, so it's really easy to navigate. When you purchase it, you get lifetime access to the content, and also if I add any bonus material, you will have access to any new material that is added as part of the course as well. So that is definitely worthwhile. If you love what you see today, you might like to get that. Now, once I've done that, I would then put my blue layer aside to just dry off, and you'll find it dries quite quickly. So that's already touch dry enough that I could actually take my rusty layers on there. So maybe we will do that straight away. And I'm just going to get a clean piece of foil so that I'm not getting my blues mixed in with my reds and oranges. So next we're going to take a look at the reds and oranges, and of course with the mocha and the red ochre we will bring some of this up. So let's just pull out a bit of the red ochre first. So what I tend to do is I tend to work from the darker colours to the lighter colours. So I like to use the red ochre first, and then we're going to tone it down a little bit with the mocha, and then next week I'm going to show you how to embellish with your rich gold to really get a beautiful finish on your artwork, to really pop the finish. So the really nice thing with the rich gold is it is actually a real yellow gold colour, and so it really is a crispy contrast to those to the blue and to the oranges that you get in there. So it just really pops your rust colour. If you want a more subtle effect, you can actually use the bronze Powtex on it as well. And someone's just saying, love layer upon layer. Absolutely. It's really the perfect way to work is just building up your layers in your artwork, and you'll get a much more professional finish once you start to do that. If you try to do everything in one layer and finish it off in one without layering, you will find that you just won't have painted in underneath some of your cogs. So if you imagine we're going to be popping these cogs onto our piece as well in different areas, the nice thing is that you actually see the colour coming through from underneath those actual cogs, which is just absolutely delightful. So it is just gold. Excuse the pun, we are going to use gold. So I'm using this, and I'm just going to use the glossy that I've got out from before, and I need my clean brush. Nice and dry, so make sure you've dried it off really well. You might like to use a paper towel too. And then it's the same process. So we get a little bit of the glossy, take it into our darker colour first, which is the red ochre. Now, this is a very, very strong colour. So if I put it straight on to my piece, it's going to be a very strong colour, as you can see. So it really is important just to take off a tiny little bit, and don't go straight into your background areas. Now here, what we don't want to do is we don't want to get into all of those blue layers. So we're really avoiding going into the cracks of the texture this time. So we don't really want to brush in there. But imagine light is coming onto your piece, and you're going to hit the texture with some of that red ochre, rusty, beautiful colour. So you want some stronger colour in some places and not so strong in others. So really have a think about where you want to kick the colour out and where you want more of the blue to be coming through. And again, when you've got very little on your brush, that's where you can go into that background area. And again, you don't want to go everywhere where your turquoise is, so leave some areas where it just stays turquoise. Don't go everywhere with the red, just kind of flash it across. So I don't know if you can see that. So there's some areas in here that I haven't touched with the red ochre at all. Now, you can apply this same technique to anything, so it doesn't have to be a journal cover. I know a lot of you have been doing altered bottles. How fabulous would the Rust Effects colours look on some altered bottles? So try it on different things, and so anything you'd like to have a play with Rust Effects on, have a play and see what happens. Now, of course, what's happening is you're getting a beautiful contrast here between the turquoise colour that is underneath and the orange of that red oxide. And especially once we start to put on the mocha, which is a more orangey colour, the contrast between the turquoise and the blues underneath just brings all the colours out to play. And it's really, you know, that using those complementary colours of the oranges that is going to just make it just gorgeous. Okay, so that's my red. And then I do exactly the same thing with some of the mocha. And again, I don't want to go up. So see what happened there? So that's very heavy. So just be careful that you're not taking so much heavy colour onto there that you lose all of that beautiful red that you've got underneath. And kind of flick it around. Don't feel like you have to cover absolutely everything. Look at it from the point of view of how the whole piece is looking, where maybe you'd like a little bit more rusty colour coming through that middle section. And like I say, really retain some of that blue turquoise in those underlayers. All right, so that's essentially dry brushing with the power colours, and next week I'm going to show you actually blinging the whole piece up. I'll make sure I can get the light a bit better next week so you can really see how the colours are popping, and because it really is incredible when you can see that total effect. So I'll just hold it up a little bit closer now so you can see how that is really coming together. So see how some of these areas, they haven't been touched with the red oxide at all. So the real trick is to leave some quiet areas in your piece where you haven't actually got too busy with texture, and also you allow some of that first colour coming through your piece to really pop your piece. Now, as we build up our layers, it's just going to become more and more professional in terms of finish. So that is where you are going to really lift your artwork, is when you start playing with layers and stop trying to do the final layer first, and you pay attention to all the background details, and then you put your final layers on, and you will find that you just start to get some really, really amazing, incredible effects in your artwork where people go, oh my gosh, how on earth did you actually do that? And look at that colouring, it is beautiful. So paying attention to your colours is really, really important when you're doing any artwork, because it is going to be the difference between a good piece and a really, really great piece will be how you actually finish with your colours and really pop those out. So I hope that you have enjoyed that, and I'll just do a little recap. So I'll just pop in and see if we've got any questions. And so Janet's just saying that it's a great process and it will look amazing. And Robin said a friend did layer upon layer. And of course, Robin, you know how much I emphasise doing layers in your artwork. It is just so fantastic to actually do and pay attention to your layers. And so creating layers of texture and colour is so, so important in your artwork. So have a play this week with creating layers. So first of all, really playing with your textures and your layers in a base colour, like I've done with the bronze Powtex. You can choose any of the Powtex colours though as a base. So you might do a red base or a blue base or a terracotta or bluish grey, whatever colour is your favourite, you can try it as a base. But if you're doing rust effects, the best base for your rust effects is your beautiful, warm, earthy bronze Powtex, which is just going to give you the most incredible finish for your rust effects work. So as I said, we do have a rusty journal available on Powertex Australia, and so you can also add the rusty colour kit to that, which includes all those bits and pieces that I use today, except for the light blue power colour. So if you do want the light blue power colour, you need to add that in, but that rusty kit is really great value. And if you love the rusty colours, then you might want to get your little red hot hands on one of those if you are within Australia. And of course, if you do want that bigger challenge, you can get my Rust Effects online workshop, and especially if you can't access me in the studio, then you might like to do that. So next weekend, if you are in Perth, on Sunday, the 22nd of August, 2021, I have a Rust Effects disc that I'm going to be doing in the studio. So if you are interested in doing that, drop me a message if you can't find the link. But the actual event is in the Facebook events, and it's also on the Powtex website. And don't forget to join the Powtex Australia Hub and share your creations with us so that we can see what you're doing through the week, and we can help you with any questions that you have got. So it's a beautiful community of people sharing artwork about, you know, what you've created with Powtex. And I love it when I see people who've hopped on a live and I see what you guys have done. And it's just absolutely wonderful. So come on board, jump on board with us, and join the community if you haven't already. And we look forward to seeing and networking with you there. And I hope that you all have an amazing weekend. Start having a look at rusty textures and what colours are actually in rust, and start having a bit of a play with your colour palette for your rust effects, and see what you can come up with, because I'm going to be doing a little series of rusty paintings as well. So I look forward to painting and playing more next week, and I hope that you've enjoyed this. Part 3 next week, and have a wonderful creative weekend, everyone. And don't forget, if you do have any questions, just drop us a line. And if you do want to learn more about Powtex, there's loads of information about Powtex art supplies on the Powtex website, and there's heaps and heaps of free video content that you can access from all the live streaming. So, ciao everyone, have a great creative weekend, and I shall see you very, 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 very soon. So, ciao for now.